All right, everyone, let's dive deep into what's shaping up to be an incredibly unpredictable, yet thoroughly fascinating 2024 presidential election. Now, when I say unpredictable, I really mean it. Yeah, we've seen dramatic swings in polls before, but this time it feels like we're witnessing something beyond the ordinary. Just imagine Donald Trump's odds of winning have skyrocketed to a mind-blowing 61. If you had asked anyone just a few weeks ago, the political landscape was vastly different. Kamala Harris, not too long ago, was in the lead and widely considered the favorite. But now, Trump is firmly in control and the entire election dynamic has completely flipped. In this breakdown, I'm going to unpack how Trump has managed to stage such an impressive resurgence and how Harris, once in a dominant position, is now losing ground at an alarming rate. Trust me, this is no simple story. It's a web of political strategy, voter sentiment, and campaign miscalculations all swirling together to give us this wild election ride. But we're not going to stop there. We're also taking a hard look at the 11 critical battleground states that are poised to decide who wins the White House. These states, swing states, as they're often called, are where the real election happens. Forget about the states that consistently vote blue or red year after year. It's these battlegrounds where every vote really counts and where both campaigns are laser focused. These states will ultimately determine who the next president is. And right now we're looking at some surprising trends that could tilt the balance in favor of Trump. Let's start with Nevada. This state is shaping up to be one of the tightest races in the entire country. At the moment, it's a pure 50-50 split. That's right, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are deadlocked, each with a 50 chance of winning Nevada. What makes this even more interesting is that just a few months ago, Harris had a comfortable lead here. But now Trump has caught up and the state has turned into a complete toss-up. The polling data reflects this, with Trump holding a slight edge of 0.5. I know half a percentage point might not sound like much, but in a state where the difference could come down to just a few thousand votes, it's a major deal. Now get this, the latest Wall Street Journal poll, which by the way, typically leans more liberal, actually has Trump up by a full 6 points. Think about that when a left-leaning poll shows Trump leading, something serious is happening on the ground. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button like this video and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Historically, Nevada has been a reliably blue state, having voted for Democratic presidential candidates consistently since George W. Bush last won it in 2004. For Trump to even be in this position, much less tied, is remarkable. If we examine the trend lines, we see that Harris was leading from late August right up until the past few days when Trump finally pulled ahead. When a candidate overtakes their opponent this close to Election Day, especially in a battleground state, the momentum is usually tough to reverse. Nevada has become more competitive in recent years, and Trump's populist message, particularly his focus on economic issues, resonates with the working class voters who have grown more influential in the state's electoral politics. Given all these factors, Nevada, while still technically a toss-up, is showing signs of tilting toward Trump. Now let's head south to Arizona. This is another critical battleground state, and Trump is in a strong position here. Right now, he has a 68 chance of winning Arizona, which is huge considering that the state flipped blue in 2020 for the first time in a decade. Many people were shocked when Joe Biden narrowly won Arizona, breaking a long Republican streak. But fast forward to today, and Trump is looking stronger than ever. One key reason for this shift is that after replacing Biden with Kamala Harris, the Democrats expected her to keep the momentum going. But that simply hasn't been the case. In fact, Harris is polling worse than Biden was at this same point in the election cycle. And that's a huge warning sign for the Democratic campaign. The polling averages show Trump leading Arizona by 1.1. And while that might not seem like a significant margin in a state as closely contested as Arizona, it could make all the difference. It's worth noting that Arizona has been trending more Republican over the past few months. The New York Times recently published a poll showing Trump ahead by 5 points, a clear indicator that Arizona voters are swinging back toward Trump. While Harris did manage to briefly lead in Arizona right after the Democratic National Convention, her numbers have since declined. Trump, on the other hand, has maintained his momentum. Given all this, Arizona is looking like a lean Republican state and it's quite possible Trump will flip it back to red. Now, let's talk about Texas. While not as competitive as other battleground states, Texas is still massively important because of its 40 electoral votes. Trump's chances of winning Texas currently stand at a staggering 91. He carried the state in both 2016 and 2020, and it's difficult to envision any scenario in which Harris could flip it this time around. There's been some chatter about the tight Senate race featuring Ted Cruz, who's facing a serious challenge. But that contest likely won't have a major impact on the presidential race. Cruz isn't exactly the most popular Republican in Texas, but Trump's approval ratings remain solid in the Lone Star State. It's worth remembering that in 2020, pollsters predicted Trump would win Texas by just one, yet he ended up with a nearly 6-point victory. This time he's leading by a similar margin, and if current trends continue, we could see Trump win Texas by double digits. That's why Texas is categorized as a likely red state. Next, we head to the Midwest, where Kamala Harris's campaign is facing some serious challenges. The Midwest is home to 4 crucial battleground states, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, that Harris absolutely must win if she hopes to secure the 270 electoral votes needed for victory. These states have traditionally been Democratic strongholds, but Trump shocked the world in 2016 by flipping several of them. And right now, Harris is struggling to maintain the upper hand. Starting with Minnesota, which has voted Democratic in every presidential election since 1972. You think this would be a slam dunk for Harris. And yeah, she still holds a 91 chance of winning Minnesota. But that's lower than what Biden was polling in 2020 when he carried the state by 7. Harris's lead in Minnesota is now under 5 points, which shows that the Democratic Party's grip on the state is loosening. Part of the issue stems from Harris's choice of running mate. She picked Tim Walz, Minnesota's governor, to help secure the state. But in doing so, she missed an opportunity to choose someone who could help her win a more competitive state like Pennsylvania or Michigan. While Minnesota is still expected to go blue, it's not as secure for the Democrats as it once was. Moving on to Wisconsin, this is where things really start to get dicey for Harris. Wisconsin has been one of the most fiercely contested states in this election cycle, and for a while, Harris was ahead. But that's no longer the case. As of now, Trump is the favorite with a 53% chance of winning. Just a few days ago, he overtook Harris in the polls, and it's the first time he's led in Wisconsin in over 2 months. If we look back at the 2016 and 2020 elections, we see a pattern of pollsters underestimating Republican support in Wisconsin. In 2016, Hillary Clinton was predicted to win the state by 6 points. Yet Trump pulled off a surprise victory. Then in 2020, Biden was projected to win by a similarly large margin, but he barely squeaked by with a 0.6 lead. Given this history, it wouldn't be shocking to see Trump maintain or even expand his lead in Wisconsin as we approach Election Day. That's why Wisconsin is now categorized as leaning red. Let's turn to Michigan, another key battleground where Harris's campaign is losing steam. Just a few months ago, Harris had nearly a 70% chance of winning Michigan, but now her odds have dropped to 46, meaning Trump has taken the lead. This is a big deal because Michigan was considered one of the Democrats' safer bets. In 2020, Biden won the state by almost 3 points, but now Trump is up by 1 in the latest polls. If Trump manages to win Michigan, it would deal a significant blow to Harris's path to victory, making it incredibly difficult for her to reach the necessary 270 electoral votes. Michigan is now trending toward the Republican. Finally, we come to Pennsylvania, arguably the most crucial state in the entire election. Pennsylvania has a massive 19 electoral votes. And right now, Trump's chances of winning it are sitting at 56. He's leading by 0.3 in the polling averages, which again may seem small, but in a state as closely divided as Pennsylvania, even the smallest lead can be decisive. Trump had been gaining ground in Pennsylvania over the past few weeks, and if this trend continues, it could be a game changer for the entire election. With Pennsylvania leaning red, Harris's campaign is in real trouble. Shifting our attention to Virginia, Harris is still expected to win here with a 91% chance of victory. Virginia has been reliably blue since the early 2000s, and Biden won it by a comfortable margin in 2020. However, Harris's lead in Virginia is smaller than Biden's was at this point, which is another indication that her campaign is underperforming across the board. Virginia remains solidly blue, but not as much as it once was. In Georgia, the race is much closer, but Trump is still the favorite. He has a 64 chance of winning Georgia, a state he lost in 2020. Georgia has been one of the most hotly contested battlegrounds in this election, and it's a must win for Harris. But Trump has maintained a consistent lead in the polls for weeks now. And as of today, he's up by 0.7. Given how close this race is, we're labeling Georgia as leaning Republican. Finally, let's talk about Florida, where Trump is absolutely dominating. Trump won Florida by 1.2 in 2016 and by 3.4 in 2020. And now he's leading Harris by over 6 points. Some of the latest polls even show Trump up by as much as 14 points. Florida is a major prize with 30 electoral votes, and it's clear that Trump is going to win the state once again. We're calling Florida likely red. So what's the bottom line? After going through all of the battleground states, it's clear that, Trump is on track to win every single swing state. If these trends hold, Trump will end up with 332 electoral votes compared to Harris' 206. While anything can happen in the final stretch, Trump has all the momentum on his side, and unless Harris's campaign can pull off a major turnaround, Trump is heading toward what could be a historic victory. Stay tuned for more updates as we count down the days to Election Day. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for the latest news and analysis. Thanks for watching.